Hey, my name's Josh McGill. I did my book report on Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. It's a book about his life and his climb from basically it starts off with him as a child all the way up to where he is today, or at least where he was, 8 years ago when the book came out. Um, and So it was really interesting because it starts off like talking about what inspired him and like what got him into deciding to be where he wants to be today. Um, and then he progresses through like what steps as a young man he had to take to ensure his uh, climb to the top. And I mean, a lot of times he didn't even know if it was really going to work out or if he was going to make anything of his career. But he really just persevered. He tried to be great, and I think that's like one of the best things that I took away from the book was that he he didn't let anything get him down. Like there's several times in the book that he does something horribly embarrassing or where it's just like a total failure in his life in the culinary field, and he bounces back from it and uses those failures as his like empowerment to make him better. And I mean, the first time he had like his first big failure when he was a teenager, he decided after that he was going to stop and go to culinary school and quit everything he was doing to go to culinary school because he had failed so bad and realized he needed to have better training, I guess. I mean, it's also interesting because eventually he progresses into like the owning his own restaurant, and talks about all the different troubles that come with trying to own a restaurant. I mean, down to the littlest things that you wouldn't think about, like the stress of trying to come up with weekly specials and trying to decide what people are going to want to buy or want to eat, and but then also stuff like organizing each station because you might have 5 stations or 6 stations in the kitchen, and then you have to be able to organize it so all those stations can run most efficiently, and you have to have someone running each of those stations that can handle themselves and handle the amount of food that you're going to put across their stations. So he talks about all like the different troubles that come there and like having to train people and finding the right people and perfecting his team. Um, so some of the key points that I found most helpful in the book where it was really, first of all, it was really helpful to see how he, despite like how sometimes it seems so daunting, like you're never gonna make anything big out of a culinary career. He has inspiration and like keeps pushing through, and sometimes things get really bad like in his life and he still like doesn't let that stop him. I mean, he has a few like small backslides and stuff, but and then another thing, like it inspired me how he had this just dream from early on to open a French restaurant, and then I mean, not even halfway in the book he already has opened this restaurant. So to me, it's like awesome that he put his mind to that and was able to do that. Also, it showed me like, I guess I didn't really talk about this, but I'm a chef. I work down at Blue Highway in Micanopy, and I get to experience a lot of the stuff that he talks about just on a small level. I mean, he also talks about going around the world and stuff in this book, but it's really relatable for me because he's talking about like slinging tickets and like the printer won't stop like bringing in tickets and having like 3 dishes he's making in one hand and 2 dishes he's trying to fix in the other hand, and um, it's just like I could really connect to it. I was really like, wow. I mean, I've definitely had these nights, and he talks about like sometimes feeling like at the end of a night he's had this great night and he feels like a giant. Then he has other nights where he, gets slammed and business is awful, and he talks about it being like a black hole and like how shot down you feel, and it's true. I mean, it is that way. A good night can like make or break it. A busy night, I guess I should say. It's not necessarily good. Sometimes you have a busy night that feels awful, and it is like hard to deal with sometimes. But then you have a good night, and if you successfully manage to push, hundreds of tickets across your station, you feel great about it. Especially nights when you can do that and then have comments come back to the kitchen, and he talks about that and how he enjoyed like the compliments coming back. And I think that's one of my favorite things in business is when someone says like, wow, that dish that you sent, that was great. Like if they come back and say something to the kitchen, or send a waiter back to say something to the kitchen, it's pretty nice. Also, I think from the book I was able to identify some of his mistakes. I mean, some of them are more prominent than like he talks about doing heroin at some point. I think that's probably a pretty big mistake in his life that I would like to try to avoid. But then there's like also smaller mistakes that I find that he makes that I'm like, well, I would like to try to not make that mistake, but then I feel like it's probably something a lot of people in the industry, little mistakes you have to make to get to the top, Can't always be perfect. What else I have to cover here? So, yeah, basically I guess I'm going to wrap this thing up. It was a great book. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I don't read much, so I was kind of like bummed at first when I got this assignment, but then to be able to pick my own book was cool, and then to read something that I was really interested in, like it really was something that met my career objectives, and was able to like get an insider view on somebody that has gone through this business and gone through this career, and I mean made it from the position where I'm at now, making not very much, not making minimum wage, but pretty close to it. And he walks all the way up from there to, I mean, I don't even know how much he makes now, but he's writing his own books and owns a couple of his own restaurants and is famous on TV. And he walks you all the way up through that, and to see how it's possible, it's not like he's a superhuman or anything, was inspiring. Gives me hope that maybe like I could make money in that field. So in that sense, I really enjoyed the book. I think it's a great book. I would recommend it for other people to read. So that was my book executive summary on Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. Thank you.